To be honest, there is a kind of fear that never raises its voice and still decides how you live. It sits in your chest like a quiet weight. It shows up as that small hesitation before you speak, the careful way you measure yourself in a room, the forced smile that keeps peace at the cost of your truth. You call it stress or tiredness or being realistic. I know it as the steady shrinkage of a life. You wake up and your first breath already carries a story of holding back. The day feels like a hallway you have walked 1,000 times, with the same doors and the same locked rooms. Work, obligations, predictions about how others will react. You move carefully so nothing explodes. You tell yourself that stability matters, and it does, but the price you pay grows quietly. The joy that once felt natural turns into something you schedule. The laughter sounds close but does not land inside the body. You keep going because everyone else seems to keep going, and you tell yourself that this is what adulthood looks like. The truth is simpler and harder. You are afraid of what would surface if you stop controlling everything. I am not saying this from a distance. I carried this fear for years. I did not call it fear. I called it being sensible, being a good partner, a good parent, a good colleague, a responsible person. I played the role so well that even I believed it. On the outside, things looked fine. On the inside, there was a slow leak that no one could see. I did not need a crisis to prove it. I needed honesty. The honesty that sounds like this. I am exhausted from pretending that I do not hurt. You have tried the usual remedies. You read the right books. You went to sessions and nodded and understood the theory. You wrote hopeful lines on sticky notes. You promised yourself a new start on a Monday that never really arrived. The relief came for a day, maybe a week. Then the old pull returned. You told yourself that you are the problem. You told yourself that you are not trying hard enough. That voice grew sharper while your energy faded. The cycle repeated until you stopped expecting anything different. You did not fail. The method did. The quiet fear trains you to live around your pain instead of through it. It teaches you to keep the lights on only in certain rooms of your inner house. In those rooms, you perform well. You deliver. You keep order. But there is a door you never open. The door contains grief you have postponed, rage you have swallowed, shame you have inherited, longings you have buried under duty. You tell yourself that opening that door would ruin everything. The truth is that not opening it has been ruining everything slowly. I will not fix you. I will not rush you. I will sit with you in this room and speak plainly. You are not broken for feeling empty in a life that looks full. You are not weak for feeling sad when others think you should be grateful. You are not dramatic for feeling rage when you were trained to be nice. These are not defects. These are signals. The body sends them because the mind learned to ignore them. The signals do not mean collapse. They mean contact with what is real. If you listen closely, you can hear the fear making small rules that shape the whole day. Do not say that. Do not ask for that. Do not risk that. Do not feel that. Keep the peace. Pretend it is fine. Get through. These rules look reasonable. They help you avoid conflict and loss. They also fence you off from the parts of you that know what you want, what you need, what you will no longer accept. The fence keeps danger out and it keeps you in. That is the trade you have been making, and it has been more expensive than you admit. Some nights the mask slides a little. You feel the pressure behind your eyes. You sit in the car or in the kitchen or in the hallway, and everything gets very quiet. You think about the version of yourself that got left behind so you could be acceptable. You feel the pull toward that lost person and the terror that comes with it. The fear tells you that turning toward it will cost you love, status, belonging. The fear convinces you that survival depends on sameness. But sameness has been draining the color from your life. I am not here to sell you light without shadow. I am here to tell you that the shadow is already living with you. It shows up as the argument you never have, but replay in your head on a loop. It shows up as the apology you give for existing. It shows up as the way you volunteer for pain you do not need to carry. It shows up as the numbness that covers everything like frost. You do not need to become positive. You need to become honest. There is a different kind of strength that begins where pretense ends. It is quiet. It is not a performance. It does not try to impress the world. It respects your limits and your longing at the same time. It says this: I will not abandon myself to be loved. I will not shrink to be safe. I will not punish my pain for telling me the truth. This strength is not born in a good week. It is born in the moment you stop arguing with your own experience. If no one has said this to you, I will say it now. Your pain makes sense. Your defenses make sense. The patterns that frustrate you kept you alive when you had fewer choices. They do not need to run your life forever. You can thank them for their service and retire them with dignity. That begins with recognition, not with force. It begins with a sentence you have avoided for years. Something in me is asking to be seen. By the end of this video, you will understand why your pain is a gift that points the way home. Why the fear that has been quietly controlling your life is not a life sentence but a signal, and why the door you fear to open is the same door that leads back to yourself. To be honest, the methods you trusted were designed to keep you functional, not free. Positive thinking taught you to paint a fresh color over a cracked wall. The words looked bright. The body did not believe them. You repeated hopeful lines while the nervous system kept a record of every time your truth was punished. The mind wrote a new story. The breath still held the old flinch. You were told that consistency would rewire everything. What actually happened is that you learned to recite while your chest stayed tight and your jaw stayed tired. Books gave you understanding. Understanding felt like movement. You closed the cover and the room did not change. Reading can become a gentle form of avoidance. Information becomes a blanket that keeps you warm, while the wound underneath never meets air. You collect concepts the way a careful person collects tools in a garage. The collection grows. The real work waits behind a door you rarely open. Therapy helped at first because being heard is medicine. Then the sessions started to orbit the same safe topics. You spoke well about your life while never entering the room where the floorboards creak. Stability became the metric of success. Fewer outbursts, fewer breakdowns, better coping. Coping matters. Coping also becomes a ceiling. Most psychologists will not tell you this because it sounds like a threat to safety. Deep work can destabilize the identity that has kept you alive. The behaviors you hate are also the scaffolding that held your structure together. To remove them without replacing them with contact and care would drop you. So the system teaches you to manage symptoms and calls it healing. You were told that mindfulness would solve it. Mindfulness is powerful when used to meet what is real. It becomes a sedative when used to tolerate what should be confronted. You breathe through the same boundary violations. You relax into the same patterns that drain your life. Calm is good. Calm without truth is a pretty cage. You were told to forgive quickly. Forgiveness can be holy when it follows real grief and anger that have been felt and moved through the body. Forgiveness used as a shortcut becomes self-abandonment in polished language. You hand people clearance to repeat what still hurts, and you call it maturity. The body keeps the invoice. You chased optimization, better routines, better mornings, better supplements, better devices, better systems. You hoped that enough control would quiet the unease. The optimization became the new god. The fear loved it because as long as you are busy perfecting the surface, you never open the old door. Productivity can feel like purpose. It becomes a clever way to never feel. Here is the hidden mechanism that sabotages healing. Your nervous system built a map of the world when you were small. On that map, truth equals danger, need equals rejection, anger equals loss, joy equals punishment, softness equals invasion. Difference equals exile. That map does not update because you read a sentence. It updates when the body has a new experience and survives it. Until then, anything that threatens the old map will be labeled unsafe. You will sabotage progress not because you are weak, but because the organism thinks it is protecting you. You will miss the session. You will pick the partner who cannot meet you. You will say yes when you mean no. You will numb at the exact moment a feeling would set you free. This is not a character flaw. This is loyalty to an older survival contract. There is another mechanism underneath. Family scripts reward you for the role you play. Maybe you are the responsible one who carries more than your share. Maybe you are the gentle one who never raises a voice. Maybe you are the successful one who proves that nothing bad happened. These roles by belonging. Healing threatens these contracts. Here is what they do not tell their patients. Change has a social cost. When you set a boundary, the system that benefited from your softness will call you selfish. When you stop rescuing, the person who relied on your rescuing will call you cruel. When you tell the truth, those who preferred your silence will call you unstable. The pushback you receive is not evidence that you are wrong. It is evidence that the contract is breaking. Most psychologists will not tell you this because their job is to keep you safe inside a short hour. The culture around healing sells comfort because comfort sells. The deeper truth is less marketable. Real change often looks like grief, conflict, messy conversations, and seasons of not knowing. Real change sometimes means losing the version of yourself that made you easy to love. Real change sometimes means losing relationships that only work when you're small. This might sound harsh, but part of you is invested in staying the same. Not because you are lazy, but because remaining the same protects you from losses you fear you cannot survive. The ego prefers a familiar prison to an unfamiliar freedom. The mind calls the prison reasonable. The body calls it safe. The price is aliveness. You did everything right according to the script you were handed. You sought help. You tried to be positive. You aimed for balance. You stayed productive. The system misled you by treating your pain as a malfunction to be silenced, by promising relief without confrontation, by framing healing as a path that never disturbs the life that is hurting you. Pain is not a bug in your code. Pain is the message that the code needs rewriting. The sabotage is not only psychological, it is physiological. When you approach the truth, your body raises an alarm based on old data. Your chest tightens, your throat closes, your limbs get heavy, your mind floods with noise. You interpret this as proof that you should turn back. In reality, it is a sign that you are nearing an old threshold. Without this understanding, every near breakthrough becomes another retreat, which then becomes another story about your failure. The story is inaccurate. The mechanism is simple. The body learned that visibility equals danger, so it hides you. Not everyone is ready to hear this. Healing interrupts profit streams and family myths. It interrupts roles that kept harmony on the surface. It interrupts your own internal economy, where self-abandonment buys you short-term relief. The illusions you were sold are comfortable because they let you avoid the room with the locked door. They are not evil. They are just insufficient. They manage the smoke and ignore the fire. If this lands as relief and also as fear, that means you are close to the truth. You are seeing why the methods you trusted could only carry you to the edge. You are seeing the structure that keeps pulling you back. You are not the broken link in the chain. The chain was never designed to set you free. There is something even scarier than losing routines, roles, or approval. There is the terror of meeting the person you have been avoiding inside your own house. We will get to that. If these words resonate, subscribe to the channel. More people need to hear the truth they're being denied. To be honest, this is where we stop decorating the pain and start naming the engine that runs it. In simple words, your life is being shaped by parts of you that do not ask for permission. Depth psychology calls this the unconscious. Think of it as a quiet manager that learned rules long ago and still enforces them today. It is not evil, it is loyal to survival. It remembers what hurt, what kept you safe, and what bought love. When today looks like yesterday, this manager nods with approval and keeps you in familiar territory. When today asks for a different response, it pulls you back to the old script. Jung describes something called the shadow. That is the collection of traits, needs, and impulses you had to hide to keep belonging. Maybe anger, maybe tenderness, maybe ambition, maybe need. You pushed them down because they cost you love. They did not vanish. They moved underground. The shadow does not rest. It pushes from behind the scenes. It shows up as the very behavior you judge in others. It leaks as sarcasm when you promise to stay calm. It shows up as secrecy when you promise to be open. It sabotages not because you are bad, but because the banished parts want a seat at the table. They will not stop knocking until you open the door. Complexes are what Jung called clusters of charged memories and meanings. Think of a complex as a sensitive switch. Touch it and the whole room lights up with old feeling. A worthlessness complex gets triggered when someone is late to text, and suddenly you are drowning in the old story that you do not matter. A control complex gets triggered when plans change, and suddenly your chest is tight and your tone gets sharp. In these moments, you are not fully in the present. You are in contact with an old field of emotion that formed around repeated experiences. The body believes the past is happening again. That is why your reactions feel bigger than the situation. The magnitude belongs to the old charge. Freud gave us language for defenses. The words can sound academic, so I will keep them plain. Repression means your mind keeps certain memories and feelings out of awareness because they feel too heavy. Rationalization means you build neat explanations to avoid the messy truth. Projection means you place your own disowned feelings on others so you can keep your image clean. These defenses are not proof of failure. They were installed to protect you. They become a problem when they run your life while you tell yourself that you are free. There is also transference. That means you treat people in your present as if they were figures from your past. You meet a boss who reminds your nervous system of a parent, and suddenly you become the careful child or the defiant rebel. You meet a partner who carries the same emotional temperature as an early caregiver, and you repeat the same plea for love in the same choreography of disappointment. Most psychologists will not tell you this in such blunt terms. We all repeat until we repair. The repetition is not moral weakness. It is the psyche trying to finish an unfinished conversation. The persona is the mask you learn to wear to keep your place. It is the colleague who never needs help. It is the parent who never admits fear. It is the partner who always understands and never complains. The mask keeps harmony and earns praise. Over time, it starves the real person behind it. The more you identify with the mask, the more your life feels like performance. You wake up inside a role and forget that it is a costume. Now bring in the body. The unconscious does not only live in thought, it lives in your breath, your muscles, your gut. When danger was chronic, your system adapted. You learned to freeze when it was smart to disappear. You learned to fawn when it was smart to please. You learned to fight when it was smart to push back. You learned to flee when it was smart to escape. These responses were intelligent. The problem appears when the old response becomes automatic in a new context. A raised voice in a meeting and your throat closes. A text with a period and your stomach drops. A request for space and your mind races. Without body awareness, you will call these moments proof that you are broken. With awareness, you will see them as alarm bells that can be tended rather than obeyed. Here is a simple map. Unprocessed pain becomes a complex. The complex lives in the shadow. The shadow pressures the persona. The persona keeps the peace while the body carries the strain. Then the smallest trigger sends the whole system into an old dance. If you only attack the symptom, the system finds another exit. If you meet the root with care, the system quiets. Paradox matters here. The more you run from a feeling, the more it organizes your life. The more you turn toward it with support, the less it needs to shout. Anger that is denied becomes sarcasm or silent compliance. Anger that is felt and owned becomes a boundary that protects connection. Grief that is denied becomes numbness or irritability. Grief that is felt and moved becomes a space where love can breathe again. Shame that is hidden becomes secrecy and self-sabotage. Shame that is brought into warm light loses its teeth. Most psychologists will not tell you how slow and physical this work is, because slowness does not sell. Here is what they do not tell their patients. Insight is not enough. You can understand your pattern and still repeat it. The nervous system updates through lived experience. You need new micro-experiences of truth told, boundary set, need expressed, vulnerability shown, and the world did not end. You need to feel the heat rise in your face, keep your breath, say the real sentence, and discover that your body survived and your dignity stayed intact. That is how the old map redraws itself. There is a practical way to do this without drowning. Move in small doses. Titration means you touch the hard feeling for a brief moment, then step back to safety. Pendulation means you swing between what is hard and what is steady, so your system learns that it can move and return. Name what happens in the body. My chest is tight. My jaw is locked. My belly is cold. Naming brings the experience into the present where you have choice. Orient to the room. Feel your feet. See the exit. Safety cues tell the alarm that it is allowed to lower. Then approach the truth you are avoiding and say one simple, honest sentence. I need a pause. I will not say yes to this. I felt hurt by that tone. I want closeness, and I also need space. The body will protest. Breathe and stay with yourself. The protest is old. The sentence is new. This is the kind of repetition that heals. The inner critic is often an internalized voice from early life. It believes that harshness prevents humiliation. It believes that punishment keeps you acceptable. You can treat it like a part that once protected you. You can thank it for trying to help and ask it to stand down so a steadier adult voice can lead. That adult voice does not flatter and does not shame. It tells the truth and stays kind. You will not bully yourself into healing. You will also not affirm yourself into honesty. Firm kindness is the middle path. Archetypes are shared patterns that live in everyone. When you overwork, you may be possessed by the hero who never rests. When you keep the peace at any cost, you may be possessed by the caretaker who never asks for help. When you seek intensity to avoid emptiness, you may be possessed by the lover without ground. Seeing these patterns gives you language and distance. You are not the pattern. You are the person who can relate to the pattern and choose. Family programs run quietly. If love equaled usefulness in your childhood home, you will try to earn connection with service and wonder why resentment grows. If vulnerability equaled invasion, you will keep secrets and wonder why you feel alone. If difference equaled exile, you will become a shapeshifter and wonder why your life feels thin. Bringing these programs into light allows you to choose new contracts. Love without usefulness, vulnerability with boundaries, difference with belonging. This might sound harsh, but you cannot keep all the old approvals and gain your freedom at the same time. Something will be lost. The loss will hurt. The hurt will not kill you. The gain is self-respect that does not depend on performance. The gain is relationships that can hold truth. The gain is energy that returns when you stop holding yourself in a shape that does not fit. Not everyone is ready to hear this. Deep work destabilizes the identity that earned you safety. You may shake. You may grieve. You may be less efficient for a while. This is not regression. This is reorganization. You are building from honest ground. You are letting the body know that new responses are allowed. You are letting the shadow know that it can come home without burning the house down. Most psychologists will not tell you that your symptoms contain intelligence. The panic you hate may be the part of you that refuses to stay in falsehood any longer. The rage you fear may be the energy that will one day power your boundaries. The numbness you judge may be the shield that allowed you to survive until support arrived. When support is present, these same forces can transform. Without support, they keep you stuck. With support, they become tools. Here is the simple core. The unconscious protects. The shadow contains what you need. The complexes want release. The defenses ask for respect and updating. The body requires new experiences, not only new ideas. The persona can step aside so the real person can speak. When this begins, life may look messier, then it becomes clearer, then it becomes simpler. And here comes the most painful truth. The fear you have avoided is the doorway you must walk through to meet yourself. To be honest, this is the threshold that most people circle for years. The fear you have been avoiding is the doorway. Not a wall, not a verdict, a doorway. Pain stands there like a stern teacher who looks you in the eye and refuses to accept your excuses. It does not hate you. It insists on honesty. It insists that you stop paying with your aliveness to keep a fragile peace. The peace you bought with self-abandonment was never peace. It was silence over a trapped voice. Pain is not chaos without meaning. Pain is condensed information about where you left yourself. Grief shows you what mattered and was never fully mourned. Anger shows you where your boundary was crossed and never repaired. Shame shows you the places that learned to hide because visibility once felt unsafe. Numbness is the off switch you built when the volume was unbearable. None of these are the enemy. Each one carries a key. When you treat them like intruders, you will spend your life locking doors. When you welcome them as messengers, you begin to live with the doors open. This might sound harsh, but ease comes after courage, not before it. The nervous system does not trust new freedom until you walk it through a few hard rooms and survive. You will shake. You will sweat. You will want to run. That does not mean you are on the wrong path. That is the old contract protesting. The protest fades when the body learns a new truth in real time. I can tell the truth and remain intact. I can say no and remain connected. I can feel this wave and remain here. The shadow becomes an ally the moment you stop arguing with it. The anger you learn to smother can become the clean line that protects love. Without a boundary, love suffocates under resentment. With a boundary, love breathes. The grief you learn to outrun can become the soft ground where tenderness grows again. Without grief, your heart turns hard to avoid breaking. With grief, your heart breaks open and stays human. The shame you learn to hide can become humility and precision. Without light, shame breeds secrecy and self-punishment. In warm light, shame becomes a signal that says you have stepped outside your own values and you can step back without cruelty. Most people try to negotiate with this process. They want full acceptance without conflict. They want liberation without loss. They want a new life that never disturbs the old structure. The math never works. Something will be surrendered. The version of you that kept harmony by vanishing will not survive. The relationships that required your silence may not survive either. This is not failure. This is nature. Systems reorganize when truth enters the room. Those who can love the person you are becoming will adjust. Those who cannot were attached to your mask, not to your face. Power changes shape when you step through the doorway. It stops being control and becomes presence. Control is the attempt to organize the world so you never feel what you fear. Presence is the capacity to feel what you fear and remain yourself. Control demands perfection and collapses under change. Presence adapts. Control chases certainty. Presence builds trust. Control exhausts the body with constant prediction. Presence gives the body rest, because now it can move with reality instead of against it. To be honest, I had to learn this the hard way. I tried to finesse the work with clever language and careful routines. I tried to be so good that I never had to feel the old ache. It did not work. What worked was simpler and scarier. I told one true sentence in a place where I had always lied to keep the peace. I felt my throat close and I stayed. I watched the old panic rise and I breathed until it changed shape. I expected collapse and found a quiet steadiness that felt unfamiliar. That was the first time I realized the monster at the door was not a monster. It was a younger part of me waiting to be met. There is a dignity that returns when you stop asking pain to leave and start asking what it is trying to give you. The gift is not comfort, the gift is orientation. Pain points you to the room where the repair must happen. It points to the conversation that was never finished. It points to the self you exiled to stay acceptable. When you follow the pointing, you stop wandering. You stop trying to fix 1,000 small symptoms and place your hands on the one living thing that has been asking for you. You do not have to choose violence against yourself to do this. You do not have to rip doors off hinges. You do not have to confess every secret in an unkind room. You do not have to perform your healing for approval. You move with care. You pick one place where you betray yourself. You end the betrayal. You pick one place where you are still hiding. You step into a reasonable amount of light. You feel the surge of fear and you anchor in your body. You remember that a wave is a wave and a wave ends. This is not dramatic. This is adult. The old identity will bargain. It will offer you a new set of rules that look healthy and feel like chains. It will turn healing into a job and call that progress. It will count your breakthroughs like trophies and miss the point. The point is not performance. The point is relationship. Relationship with your own life that does not require anesthesia. Relationship with others that does not require masks. Relationship with the world that does not require shrinking. Not everyone is ready to hear this. Pain is not just an experience. It is a culture. There are families and workplaces and entire communities built on the agreement to avoid what hurts. When you stop participating, you break the unspoken pact. You will be called intense. You will be called selfish. You will be called dramatic. You will also sleep better. You will recognize your own voice without flinching. You will meet people who find your clarity grounding because it gives them permission to stop pretending to. There is a moment in this process that matters more than any book or session or insight. It is the moment you say the private vow. I will not abandon myself again. That sentence changes the atmosphere inside your life. It does not make the path easy. It makes the path clear. From that moment, every choice becomes simpler. Does this honor the vow or does it repeat the old contract? You will still fall back at times. Falling back is not failure. It is part of strengthening a new path. You notice sooner. You repair faster. You return with less drama and more respect. The shadow does not disappear when it becomes an ally. It becomes a companion with a vote, not a driver with the keys. The fear does not vanish when you step through the doorway. It takes a new seat in the car. You give it a name. You thank it for trying to keep you safe. You let it ride and you keep your hands on the wheel. This is mature power. Quiet, steady. No need to announce itself. No need to win. It simply refuses to leave you behind again. And here is the heart of the climax. The part of you you feared would ruin your life is the same part that will save it. The anger that once burned your connections now fuels your boundaries. The grief that once soaked your days now waters new growth. The shame that once cut you down now sharpens your honesty. The numbness that once protected you now loosens its grip because it trusts you to protect yourself. This is integration, not perfection, not a glossy after photo. A real life with real feelings and a person inside it who can stay present. From here, the work becomes practical and repeatable. Small, honest moves. Body first. Truth next. Repair when needed. No performance. No self-cruelty. No sprinting for a finish line that does not exist. You are building a house that you can live in. A house with lights on in every room. A house where the shadow sits at the table and brings its strength. And you say thank you, and you eat, and you rest, and you begin again. To be honest, practice is where dignity returns. Insight opens the door. Repetition walks you through. Keep the order simple. Body first, truth next. Repair when needed. No performance. No self-cruelty. Begin with contact. Place a hand where your breath is shallow and stay long enough to feel warmth. Name what is happening without decoration. Tightness in the chest. Heat in the face. Hollow in the belly. Naming brings the experience into the present where choice exists. Look around the room and find a few steady things that do not move. A wall, a chair, a window frame. Let your eyes rest on what is solid until your breath loosens by a small degree. Small is enough. Now make one honest move. Choose a place where you habitually abandon yourself. Pick a sentence that protects your truth and keep it short. I need a pause. I will not commit to this today. I want this, and I also need space. I felt hurt by that tone. Say it once to a page. Say it once aloud when no one is listening. Then say it to one safe person. The old panic will rise. Let it rise and fall like weather. You are training your system to survive truth. Use parts dialogue when the inner conflict gets loud. Write as two voices on a page. The one who fears exposure. The one who is ready to live. Let them speak to each other without editing. Ask the fearful voice what it protects. Ask the ready voice what it longs for. Then write as the adult who can hold both and lead. End with one promise in plain words. I will not abandon you. That vow matters more than a perfect plan. Work with anger in the body so it becomes a boundary and not a blast. Press your feet into the floor until you feel your legs. Push your palms against a wall and exhale slowly. Say the sentence that anger carries beneath the heat. My time matters. Do not speak to me like that. I will not carry what is not mine. Anger will soften when it has finished its job of drawing a line. Let grief move without rushing it into meaning. Sit somewhere private. Place a hand on your heart and another on your belly. Remember what was lost or never given. Allow tears or the absence of tears. Both are movement. When the wave settles, name what the grief honored. Love, time, innocence. The naming prevents you from turning away in shame. Tend to shame by bringing it into warm light. Write the secret you hide, not for the world, but for your own eyes. Say what you did to survive. Say what you regret without attacking yourself. Then share a smaller, safer portion with one person who has earned your trust. Choose someone who respects boundaries and keeps confidences. The goal is not confession theater. The goal is to let shame meet eyes that do not turn away, so it can lose its power to rule you from underground. Meet numbness with gentle movement and sound. Walk at a steady pace and feel each step land. Hum until you notice vibration in your throat and chest. Stretch slowly and notice the edges of sensation. Numbness is a shield that served you. Thank it for its work. Invite it to loosen when safety is present. It will loosen as trust in your leadership grows. Set daily micro-contracts instead of grand programs. In the morning, write one line. Today I will not abandon myself by doing this one thing. In the evening, write one line. Here is how I kept the vow, and here is how I will repair where I slipped. No shaming, no trophies, just steady attention. Repair means you clean up the moment you went silent or sharp. You name it, you set it right, you return to alignment. This is how self-respect becomes real. Use titration and pendulation so you do not drown. Touch a hard memory for a brief moment, then return to a resource that steadies you. A song, a photograph of someone safe, the feeling of your back against a chair. Move back and forth with intention. You are teaching your system that intensity can rise and also fall, that you can visit the hard room and return intact. Most psychologists will not tell you how unglamorous and effective this rhythm is. It looks simple. It rewires everything. Practice boundary scripts for the pushback that often comes. Someone calls you selfish because you stopped rescuing. You say, I care about you and I will not do that. Someone calls you dramatic because you name the hurt. You say, I am speaking plainly about what matters. Someone tries to rush you. You say, I decide my pace. Keep your tone even and your sentence is short. You are not asking for permission. You are informing the world of the new contract. Update the inner critic by changing its job. When it attacks, name it out loud. Harsh voice present. Thank it for trying to keep you safe from humiliation. Then assign it a different task. Scan for where I need rest. Scan for where I need support. The critic wants a role. Give it one that serves your life rather than shrinks it. Bring the shadow into collaboration through shadow dialogues. Choose a trait you judge in yourself. Greedy, needy, angry, cold. Write a page where that part explains why it exists and what it has been trying to do for you. Do not argue, listen. Then write a page where you set terms for cooperation. You can tell me when something feels off. You cannot run the whole show. I will protect us so you do not need to explode or disappear. Ownership ends the war. Create small rituals that anchor the work in the body. A hand on the heart before a hard conversation. A glass of water after telling the truth. A brief walk after a boundary. These are not superstitions. They are signals to the nervous system that a new pattern is underway and that safety follows honesty. Over time, the body trusts what you are building. Choose community with intention. Share only with people who can hold truth without turning it into gossip, advice, or comparison. Speak in specifics rather than speeches. I set a boundary with my sister today and I am shaking. I told my partner I need a night alone and I feel guilty. I told my boss I cannot take another project this week and I feel both relief and fear. This is how we build rooms where honesty is normal and no one needs to perform health. Expect backlash from within and from around you. When it appears, name it as a sign that the system is reorganizing. You are not regressing when life feels messier. You are integrating. Keep the vow. One honest move a day. One repair when you slip. One act of care that replaces an old self-punishment. Aliveness grows by these ordinary steps. Here's a final tool for this chapter. When you do not know what to do, return to the body and ask for the smallest truthful move that does not betray you. Not the bravest move, not the perfect move, the smallest truthful move. Then do that one thing. This is how momentum replaces fantasy. This is how the quiet fear loses its position at the center of your life. We are building a community of people who are ready for the truth, not polished, not performative, honest and in progress. Hold your vow. Keep your feet on the ground. Speak one true sentence. The rest becomes possible from there. To be honest, this is where you choose. Not a perfect life, a truthful one. You have carried the fear long enough. You have kept the peace by leaving yourself behind. Now you make a different vow. One small, honest move, repeated until your life becomes a place you can live. If you saw yourself in these words, write in the comments, I no longer run from pain. Let's see how many are ready for the truth. If you feel it's time to meet your shadow, write, my darkness is my strength. Let's build a community of those unafraid to look within. If you're ready to drop the mask, write, I take off the mask. Let's see who's ready for real life. If this video changed something in you, write, I accept my shadow. Make it your vow to yourself. This is only the beginning.